This is Chick2Chick Uncut, raw and unfiltered.
Spring is here. The kids, they're almost out of school for the summer, and families are starting to think about where should we go on vacation. This isn't just a family thing. You also have millennials and Gen Z. They want to travel. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have 40, 50, 60-year-old single adults. They might be on their own, but they still want to go out and see the world. And they're embarking on solo trips, solo adventures. So where are the hot spots? Where can you find some great deals? And what about things like Real ID, TSA PreCheck, TSA Clear? What do those things mean? And soon there are going to be new regulations when you want to travel to Europe. Lots to unpack here with my guest today, Donna Ziegler. She is the Discoveries Group Travel Manager for AAA Central Penn. Donna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Hi, Flora. Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe it's spring, almost summer. Time is just flying by.
It absolutely is. Okay, first question here. Families want to go on vacation. Why is it so important for families to take a trip, take a break, and to get away together?
Well, it's all about creating memories. I know, some of the things when my family traveled back when I was a kid, it's all about, I remember my family and I on the beach, my own children. It's about memories. And let's face it, day-to-day life can be stressful. Traveling with your family allows you to just relax and share those experiences in the moment. And trips to the beach and Disney, they can all be great, but there can also be learning opportunities as well. It's about education while sharing those experiences. So that's why family travel is so important. Maybe you are going to Florida to one of those magical amusement parks that are in the area. But there are so many other things that you can tie in with education. The Kennedy Space Center, we all just saw that amazing just a couple of weeks ago, or I don't know how long ago it was, where they, Artemis and they went up to the moon. They have Kennedy Space Center right there. There's also, you don't even have to travel that far. There's Colonial Williamsburg. There's Boston. There's so many things right here in our own backyard that you don't have to go far to create those memories.
And if you think about it, like as a child, what did I get for Christmas? I don't really know, but I do remember going to the beach every year with my family. Exactly. And I think those memories leave an imprint on your heart so much more. Now, you talked about a couple of places. Are there any hot spots or places that you would recommend for families, whether it's national or international or cruising? Is there something that comes to mind that you think is really a great trip for families?
Well, I think it depends on the family for first of all, and also how much time do you have? Maybe you only have a quick weekend. Then something like Colonial Williamsburg might be the perfect option. If you have 2 weeks and you have the opportunity to really bond and go on that magical journey, national parks might be, a wonderful option. What great memories can you create in Yellowstone or the Grand Canyon, something of that nature? But also, international, if you have that experience and you have the means to be able to do it, how wonderful would that be as a child to be able to think back on your childhood and know that you went with your mom, dad, grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever it may be, to Paris or London or one of those overseas destinations. Because at the end of the day, like you said, Flora, it's about creating those memories and the quality time. You can get a present and unwrap it and you may or may not remember it, but you're going to remember that quality time regardless of where the destination is. Most likely you're going to remember that for many, many years to come. And you might even set a family tradition with your own, like their children might take their children, to one of these places that you went. You might do it year after year. There are so many different ways. But again, I don't want to sound like a broken record. It's all about quality time and sharing those memories.
Oh, I totally agree. And to your point, you can make a trip a gift. That's something that I used to do with my son when he was little at Christmas. I didn't bombard him with toys because I knew he wouldn't remember because I didn't remember. So at Christmas, I gave him a trip, and that was his gift. And if you ask him now, he'll tell you exactly where we went, how old he was, and each destination and what he liked about it and what he didn't like about it. It really left an imprint. But if I say to him, did I give you a gift that year, like a toy or something? He's like, I don't know. I don't know. But
kids don't have to be little kids. Families are, of all ages. I mean, my young adult, early 20s daughter, I always get her a trip for Christmas. We just did one to the Caribbean, not too long ago. So there's never, a break, a stopping point of when you can create those memories.
Oh, absolutely. Keep doing it. Absolutely. Now, you talked about the gamut there for families. What about millennials and Gen Z? They're not into stuff. They want to make memories. They want to travel. They're into experiences. Are there hot spots out there that are good for millennials, Gen Z?
Well, millennials and Gen Z, they're very similar in some unique ways that they, like you said, they don't want, the majority of the demographic would prefer an experience over a gift. They want to be out and exploring it, but how they go about it is a little bit different. The Gen Zs, they're all about usually what's going on social media. They want to see the trends and what is, everybody else is doing. And they're going to gear their buying decisions more on what they're seeing online and what is the top trend right now, or what is the experience that everybody is doing. But they're also in it for they a lot of times, not everybody, but they don't have maybe as the means to go on the elaborate trips. They're looking for that deal. They're looking for what can they do to get more bang for their bucks. But millennials, they're again, same thing. They want the experience, but they're really more in it for the specific experience. Maybe and they will create a trip around a specific experience. So maybe it is the Eiffel Tower at sunset. Maybe it is the Niagara Falls illumination. Maybe it's a boat ride in Capri. They will take an experience and build a trip around it. But they're also that demographic. They need to fit it into the time frame because a lot of them they're right in the heart of their careers. Careers are important to them, but vacations are just as important. So they're looking for a way to build that experience, but also fit it into the time frame that they have the ability to do so.
You know what I heard you say over and over again? Every example you gave, it was a photo op. It was the lights in Paris because it's a photo op, or Niagara Falls at night. It's a photo op.
Yes.
They want that picture to post online, which is crazy. But that's where their head is. Okay. Yeah. And we've talked about this. I mentioned this at the top of the podcast, something that's really becoming huge now, solo trips. You have older adults, they're single, divorced, whatever that might be, and they want to travel, but they don't necessarily have a travel partner to go with. Some of them are going on their own. What do you suggest for people who are in that situation? Is there a good destination for that older solo traveler? Should they go out on their own, or should they make that first trip in a group setting and do it that way?
Well, the solo traveler, this is one of the areas that's really expanded upon. Even several years ago, it was unfortunately harder for someone who doesn't have a travel companion. There weren't as many options for them. They could certainly travel anywhere they'd like. There just wasn't as many options. And what I mean by that is a lot of times cruising was a very challenging piece. It's not that there wasn't space. It's just that economically it might not have been their best option, because historically speaking, cruise lines base their occupancy on double occupancy. And, it doesn't matter if there's one person or two people in the cabin, you're going to pay the same rate. As far as touring, sometimes, especially in European destinations, historically, there has been challenges as far as the amount of hotel rooms and space on tours that are provided to solo travelers. But I'm really excited, especially the last couple years. There are a lot of tourism companies that are really expanding the options for solo travelers. There are companies out there who I think it's great that are dedicating and making special departures specifically for solo travelers, expanding like solo-ish type of departures. And cruise lines, there are several out there who are making, listing their single supplements or making cabins that are specific for solo travelers. Because when you think about it, solo travelers doesn't mean that you're specifically divorced or, solo. It can be maybe you have a partner and they just don't like to travel. Depending on where you're going, my husband's not going. So, it can depend. So there are so many different circumstances. Solo travel can also mean that it might not be specifically by yourself. Maybe you have a small group, but you don't want to room in the same hotel or the same cabin. You might be traveling together. So I think you mentioned when is the right place or where is the right place, or is it a good idea for them to travel on their own? I always tell clients and people who I'm talking to, it's really, you have to determine what is right for you. If you're not an experienced traveler and you've never traveled anywhere, then you might not want to go on that Australian outback, on your own for the first time. You might probably would want to go with a tour group and travel as a group. If you're an experienced traveler, you might want to adventure out. It's just a matter of what you feel comfortable with and taking advice from industry leaders of where those destinations are that would be perfect for you.
And so these travel companies then are listening and paying attention, and they're designing and tailoring trips then based on what you're saying to accommodate that solo traveler. And again, to your point, it doesn't mean that you're divorced or it doesn't mean that you're never married. That's not what a solo traveler is. You could be married and your partner doesn't want to travel anymore. That still makes you a solo traveler. Mm-hmm. And so they're recognizing that there's a whole different market out there and tailoring trips to accommodate them.
Yes, more and more. As one company is doing it, we're seeing more companies coming on board. So there's a lot more options today and economically than there were, even a year ago or 2 years ago, which I think is a wonderful way that, trips and companies are steering in that direction.
And I guess the sky's the limit. You go wherever you want to go.
You can go wherever you want to go. You just need to determine where that is. And there's a combination out there for you. It doesn't matter if you're traveling as a group, if you're traveling as a single or a solo traveler, if you're traveling as a family, there are options. And pretty much any destination, you just have to find the right combination and right itinerary for you. That's really where the best advice would come in from a professional, is to be able to gear you also to your comfort level, your ability level. If you're looking for a relaxed vacation, you don't want to be, going up Machu Picchu in Peru. You want something more, maybe that cruise to the Caribbean, something of that nature. So, really, I don't think it's a matter of the destination. I think it's tailoring what you're interested in and the vacation that you're looking for in that right time frame.
And you said the word before, you said the D word before, deals. Everybody wants a deal. When a family's trying to book a vacation, mom's looking for that deal. The millennial, the Gen Z traveler, they're on a budget. They want a deal. And even the solo traveler, we all want deals. Are there deals to be had? Right. Why not? How do you find deals?
They're out there. I will say that right now, the deals are out there. You just have to search for them or work within travel professional or an advisor. The world we live in right now, I mean, let's face it, I don't think we're keeping any secret. Fuel prices are up, things of the nature, air fuel, cruise fuel, things of that nature, but they are out there. And there's ways to be economical if you are on a budget. Maybe instead of a 10-day vacation, maybe it's a 7-day vacation. Or there are deals out there. You just have to search for them, and they change daily. So I can't really say that, if you go out there tonight, you're going to find this specific deal, but they are out there. You just have to search for them, and you have to do your research as well. I mean, if something looks too good to be true, check with a travel professional, let them steer you in the right way, but there are deals out there.
Is there a destination right now that's a deal? Sometimes we go through these phases where I remember Cancun was like a great cheap place. Is there one specific place right now that like, oh yeah, it's great, let's go there because it's cheap?
Caribbean, you can get very, very good deals. Cruising has ballooned. It's exploded in the last year or two. There's so many more ships. There's so many more ship options. And depending on what type of package, you can get deals, whether you're in an interior cabin, whether you have like a picture window ocean view, or if you want that balcony. So I would say those two are really something to look into because there are deals out there.
Now, I was always told, and maybe this is just a myth or a fallacy, that the best day to book an airline ticket is on a Tuesday night. Is that true?
Well, I mean, it's not, I would say it's not a myth, but it's not actually entirely accurate either.
Okay.
Historically speaking, airlines will, you'll get the better fares during the middle of the week. So to your point, Flora, Tuesday, Wednesday tend to be a little bit less expensive or offer that quote unquote deal. Airlines do know that most people will shop for airfare on the weekends when they have more time, when they have more flexibility. So they tend to be a little higher. But so it's not really a myth, but I can't really say it's factual either.
But maybe better to book.
But it's better to check during the middle of the week. If you have some time in the middle of the week, double check. I personally am looking for, airfare right now for a trip in December, and I will be getting on to tomorrow or, midweek and checking. So I tend to check midweek as opposed to checking on the weekends.
So I know that families are kind of limited because the kids are in school and maybe they can only travel during the summer or around the holidays at Christmas or Thanksgiving. But if you have a flexible schedule and you're not tied down to anything, is there a better time of the year to travel to get the best rates? What would you recommend?
Well, it depends on where you're going. If you're traveling somewhere to a warm destination, Mexico, Cancun, Florida, you want to try to stay away from spring break. They're going to be crowded and the rates are going to be more expensive. Also, you're going to want to check the climate as well. I mean, you don't want to go to, for example, Costa Rica during the rainy season. So you could probably get a really good deal, but is it the time and the place that you want to be? Europe is going to be your busiest from about May through September. It's October. It starts to wind down a little bit. So if you're looking for a less crowded time, but before the weather really turns cold, then you would want to look maybe October time frame for Europe. So know your destination and know the climates as well. I mean, if you're doing that further destination, your hemispheres and as well. I mean, when we're in summer, your destination might be in winter. So knowing those facts go a long way. But doing it slightly before the peak season or at the very end of the season, whatever that destination may be, are going to be less crowds and usually your off-peak rates as well.
And I think to your point, people need to be aware when they see this, this cruise, wow, what a great deal. Oh, I'm going to book. Hello, it's a great deal because it's happening in the middle of hurricane season.
Exactly. And hurricane season keeps going on a little bit longer. It seems like every year. But know your destination. You might, if you want to do the Caribbean, you might want to stay away from July, August, September time frame. Going October, going March or April.
We talked about international travel, and we talked about, going places in the States, and we've talked about cruising. We can't overlook what's in our own backyard. We're here in Pennsylvania, and if you have just a weekend or you want to take the family on a road trip, tell me about some great places to visit here in our own state.
Depending on where you live, that we live in such a unique place here in, South Central Pennsylvania, at least where I'm at. You can be a lot of places in an hour or two. You can be in Washington, D.C. in 2 hours. You can Hershey, you can Lancaster. Don't forget, the wonderful Amish country that we have there. You can go up north to the Poconos. There's Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore. There are so many places within a 2 hour radius that you can, Jim Thorpe, Falling Waters, all those different places. So, if you only have a weekend, you can jam pack and you can fill that weekend.
Yeah, lots to see and do here in Pennsylvania. Okay, let's talk about some tips to travel, specifically airfare. And I know there are a lot of questions about real ID. What if I don't have real ID? What if I don't have a passport? Are they still going to let me on the plane? Or am I going to have to jump through hoops and do a couple of somersaults as well?
Oh my goodness, Flora. There are so many, and I'm in the industry and I have trouble keeping up with all this. So, I'll go through it a little bit, but yes, there are so many things that are changing, especially when we get to some overseas destinations, which I know we'll probably chat about. But if you're traveling domestically, in order to get on a domestic air flight at the moment, you do need to have a real ID or a passport. So the number one question everybody asks me is, do I need a real ID? Well, it depends, If you're somebody that doesn't travel very often, that maybe only goes on a flight once a year, once every other year, once every couple of years, and you don't have a passport, you never intend on traveling internationally, then I would recommend getting a real ID. You should, you never know when you might have that last minute flight or need to visit somebody on short notice, etc. For those cases, it's probably best to get a real ID if you don't have a passport, just to be able to, if you need to take a flight at the last minute, you can board. There are ways that you can board a flight. There is a special screening process that I believe the flight charge is $40, but in order to get through that, if you're running late, if there's extra lines at the airport, you don't really want to run into, that type of situation. It's better just to get the real ID and have that handy. If you're somebody that does a lot of traveling and has a passport, then a real ID is not necessary. The real ID is used to board domestic flights and to get into certain federal buildings. So if you have a passport, you really don't need a real ID. Unless you're somebody like me, I'm on planes more than I'm not on planes. I do a lot of traveling. So for me, if you do a lot of domestic traveling, it's, to me, easier just to use my real ID than to always have to remember to bring my passport.
Okay, so what is the difference between TSA pre-check and TSA clear? I see those signs all the time, and I'm like, what does that even mean?
Here we go. So
here we go. Buckle up.
Here we go. They are very common questions. You're not the only one that has them. Flora, you get to the airport and you see all the signs. So the main difference is they are two very completely different things. So Clear is not TSA. They are a privately owned company that runs that program. What Clear does, it gets you to the front of the line. It doesn't have anything to do with the screening process where you're going through the actual metal detector, the screening program. What it does is it takes your picture at the beginning and it allows you to get up to where they're checking the IDs faster. It's
Okay.
also the most expensive. It's valid for 1 year, and I believe it's about $209 per year. The common traveler doesn't need Clear. Clear
Okay.
is really for somebody who does a lot of frequent traveling, and it's valid at 60 of the busiest airports across the country. And what most people will be interested in, and what I have, and I think it's wonderful, best $78 I've ever spent, is the TSA pre-check. What that does is it allows you to get through, there's shorter lines typically for TSA pre-check, and it allows you to get through the screening process. You don't have to take out typically your laptops, your, tablets, liquids and gels. And usually there's a specialized line then that you don't have to do the full screening process. So that is valid for 5 years, and it's $78. So that, for somebody who only travels once, it's still worth the value.
So you recommend the pre-check over the TSA Clear?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Now, here's a big one that I don't even understand all of this and what is going on. There are new regulations for European travel. Some of these regulations have started. Some are going to start. Take us through that, Donna. And I'm still buckled up, by the way. So
okay. Yeah, I was going to say, still hold on. Hold on tight.
Okay.
But if you don't mind, I would like to just add one more piece that might be helpful for.
Sure.
So your TSA pre-check and your Clear, that's really for domestic travel. But there's one more piece. You might have seen signs if you've come back in from an overseas trip, global entry. I want to kind of, if you don't mind, just explain that very quickly as well, because I get a lot of questions on global entry. So global entry is another government program. It's through Customs and Border Control. And what that allows you, it doesn't do anything for you when you're here in the United States taking off, but on your return, it allows you to get through the customs process faster.
Okay.
It's also good for 5 years. I believe it's around $125. And there is an interview process that goes with that. But the global entry also includes TSA pre-check. It's a combo. So it's going to work here in the U.S. because it includes TSA pre-check. And then when you're coming home from a trip, it will allow you to get through the customs process faster.
So instead of waiting like 2 hours to get through customs, I'm going to zip through with this global reentry.
Right. But I'm going to teach you another trick as well. It's not as common. You might have seen another sign if you're going through customs. It says MPC, and that is called Mobile Passport Control. Yeah. This is a free app that they have really started to enhance in the last couple years. There is no fee to use it. So if you are traveling from Philadelphia round trip to Paris and coming home from Paris, you can fill out the mobile passport app. You just need to take a picture of your passport 4 hours prior to arriving in flight, and you can answer a few questions and you can get through the faster. It's not the global entry line, but the mobile passport control line is usually a lot faster than the standard customs line, and it's free to use.
That's a great tip. Okay, let's go back to those European regulations. I'm holding we're holding on for turbulence here.
All right. So you have a wonderful trip to Europe planned here shortly. Do your homework in advance or talk to a travel professional, because there are a lot of different changing regulations. They like to keep us on their toes. They like us when we're hanging on. So the first one that is already in place, this is only for anything that is the UK. So Great Britain. So your Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales, those places. There is an electronic travel authorization that is required prior to traveling to one of those destinations. So there is an app that you can use, or you can apply online. I believe it is 20 British pounds, which comes out to be, give or take, depending on the rate, about $27 US. But you do need to apply for that prior to arriving in Great Britain. It the airline will check it when you are stateside. So they will check it. It's attached to your passport. It's valid for 2 years for travel or until your passport's expired. But if you don't have it, like if you're boarding a flight in Philadelphia for London and you don't have it, you will be unable to board. So you do need to make sure that you get the UK electronic travel authorization.
Okay.
So, and that, I mean, everybody in your family needs that as well, even a child or an adult.
And you would do that ahead of time, right?
You need to do it ahead of time.
Okay.
They say that you can, it only takes, a lot of people do get an instant reply, but there are times it can take a little longer. So don't wait till the very last minute. I would do it at least a couple weeks before.
And don't think you're going to be able to do it at the airport when you show up and they say you don't have this and you go, oh, let me just get online. It doesn't work that way, right?
You want to be prepared. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So that's already in place for the UK and all of the countries that are in the UK. Right. What about the rest of Europe?
And just quickly for the UK one, do your homework, know where you're going, because depending on if you're transiting in some of the airports, you may still need that UK ETA. So common things, if you're staying airside, like if you have a connection in London Heathrow and you're moving on to Munich, Germany, most likely you won't need it. But if for any reason you have to change terminals where you go and collect your baggage and go to another terminal, or if you have an overnight layover and are leaving the airport, even though you're not staying in the UK, you would need that electronic authorization. Okay, sorry, didn't mean to get us off topic here, but it's a lot of good information. So.
Yeah, it really is. So now we're on to the rest of the Europe, and where does that stand?
Right. So what is new? They started it the end of last year, but is in full implementation as of April of this year. So fairly new is the EES. It's the entry and exit system for the European Union countries. So there is no fee for this. There is nothing that you need to apply ahead of time, but it's nice you don't want to be surprised or, have anxiety when you arrive. So suppose you do arrive in Paris, you're in France, and what they will do when you get through the passport control and customs area is they will take your biometric picture, and they will take your fingerprints upon entry. And so then they, upon exit, whichever country you're exiting from, that same information then will pop up in their system. It's for security reasons on their end. So if you're going in and out of the same country, I mean, that's the easy part. But if you're taking a Rhine River cruise and you start in Switzerland and you end up in Amsterdam, Netherlands, so your fingerprints and picture will be taken in Switzerland, and then the information will be brought up in Amsterdam upon exit. Good news is there's nothing you need to do ahead of time at the current moment.
Just don't freak out when they ask for that.
Just don't panic you're asked to take when they're taking your fingerprints. But what it's taking the place of is a passport stamp. So for those of us who love to travel and collect the passport stamps as you went to different countries, that's going to be a no longer. So this biometric entry and exit system is taking the place of passport stamps.
Okay, so then that's what's going on now, but then are they going to move to a system similar to what they're doing in the UK?
Yes. So the entry and exit system
is
not going away. Yes. So you're still going to get the fingerprints and the picture, but there is not an exact date yet. And the best that we know is that they're telling us somewhere towards the end of 2026, but I don't know whether it'll be November 1st, December 1st, etc. There is a new authorization to abbreviate. It's called the ETIAS, but I'm going to refer to my notes this one time because I can never remember it. European Travel Information and Authorization System. So ETIAS.
That's a lot.
You will need, yes, and you will need to apply for it prior to going to any of the countries in the European Union area. So it's going to be good for 3 years, what we're being told, or until your passport it expires, whichever would come first. It'll be about 20 euros, so give or take 23, 24 US dollars. But again, you need to apply for it when it becomes effective. You need to apply for it ahead of time because the airline will check it before you leave the US to make sure it's attached to your passport. So all
Donna,
these different things going into effect.
yeah, so many things that are going into effect. And some people are really savvy when it comes to travel, and they're like, oh, no problem, I will book my own trip. But what I'm hearing from you, and I'm starting to get anxiety just hearing these things from you, it's good to have a travel agent help you out. And I think that people think, oh, this travel agent is going to charge me money. Does it cost money to use a travel agent?
Not at AAA Central Penn. And I will say, we don't want anybody getting anxiety. So two things. One, I will say that the things that have gone into place already, they are easy to use. They're not hard. You just need to be prepared. But that's what people like myself, that's what we're here to do is, work with a travel professional. At AAA Central Penn, you do not need to be a AAA member, although you would love for you to be a AAA member. You don't need to be a AAA member to come in and ask advice and get tips. If you book a trip, in order to get things like a lot of our suppliers will give us AAA like discounts to members, you would need to be a AAA member. But we have started a brand new membership. It's called the Everyday Membership. That's only $25. But in order to just come in and get advice, no, you do not need to be a AAA member.
Okay, I want to go back to that membership. Is that $25 a year?
It is.
Okay.
So what? We listen to our travel. We're most known for, obviously, you probably think of AAA and my logo here, and you think roadside assistance, which
right.
Great. We all use it. I've used it plenty of times myself, but we understand that maybe not everybody needs roadside assistance. So we've started a brand new type of membership last year. It's called the Everyday Membership, and that's gains you. You're able to use our insurance agency, travel agency, get member benefits, discounts. There are, local partners, things of that nature, all by having the Everyday Membership, which is only $25 an annual fee.
So with that, I can come in and you can help me book a trip wherever I want to go. You're going to find me deals. You're going to tell me about all these regulations. You're going to take all of the guesswork out for me. And you're going to get rid of my stress and anxiety. Is that what you're telling me for $25, Donna? That's it.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head. That's why you let somebody like myself or one of our talented people on, we have a wonderful team of talented travel advisors. Let them take the worry out of it. Let them make sure that if something changes tomorrow and wanting to, let them make sure that they're, that way you are fully prepared for travel. Let them look up the deals for you. Let them give them options. Because really, at the end of the day, we talked about way at the beginning of when we first came on about memories and, wanting to take the stress out of, have a stress-free vacation. That's why you're traveling. That goes way back to the booking process, too. Let somebody help you, and all these changing pieces.
Well, and what about like when a flight gets changed or a flight gets canceled? And, or you get to a hotel and there's a problem, there's an issue. Can I call you 24 hours a day? Can I call AAA and say, hey, help a girl out. Help me, sister.
Yeah, we always will point you in the right direction to make sure you have a contact. One of the things that I don't think we touched upon a whole lot, but I'll just mention briefly, is also our group departures. We mentioned it very quickly, but don't be scared of group departures either, because I'll use an example of canceled flights. I'll, go back a couple years ago. We had an entire group that the flight was canceled in Vancouver, and guess who? It was me and my team who made sure that they were able to sit back. They had lunch in the airport. They, relaxed, and within an hour or two, we had, different arrangements. So it's those types of things that you're no longer scrambling in the airport and trying to, worry about it yourself. You don't feel alone. You have somebody. And some of our group departures, and I know I'm a little bias because that's my, department is groups.
Yeah.
But most of the time somebody travels with you from AAA as well.
When you go on one of these group trips.
When I'm doing on the groups. But regardless, even if it's just a trip to, I don't know, Miami and we will make sure you always have a contact or know who to contact if there is a problem.
Well, there's a little bit of irony here because you go on a trip because you want to relax. And then sometimes you go on a trip and you're stressed out because all of these things are happening because your flight got canceled or, something else has happened. And you guys are just you're going to take that away from me, right? So I'm zen on this trip. So if something happens, I'm just going to go, Donna's going to take care of it for me, right?
We are going to do everything we possibly can to take that stress free. Travel, things happen in travel.
Yeah.
But what we are going to do is make sure that you are prepared and help you on behind the scenes to take as much of that stress process out as we possibly can.
Especially if you're traveling by yourself.
Exactly.
Especially if you're traveling by yourself. It's like, I've got my friend here with me.
Right. You're never truly by yourself. And the world we live in, it is a scary book. We've been through in the last several years, we've been through pandemics. We've been through, wars. We've been through, hurricanes, things of that nature. That's what we are here to do. And we talked about millennials, we talked about Gen Z, they're reaching out as well. They want, although they're looking on the, social media and they're getting, inspiration for their, trips. They're looking to the travel professionals for advice to make sure they do have all their ducks in a row and make sure they have safety. And also, do they have the right things they need in order to be able to travel?
Yeah, it gives you, for $25 a year, that's a whole lot of peace of mind. If people want more information, Donna, if they have questions, because we went over a lot, and I'm sure this has prompted more questions. If people want to get in touch with you, is there a number to call? Do you guys have a website? Give me that information.
Of course. And one other piece, I always want to make sure I get the phone number right. So our phone number is 1-888-743-2844. And there's an option for our travel team. And we have a wonderful team of travel advisors. But if you want to look online, you're listening to this podcast, I'm like, oh, I need to, get some information. We certainly can go to the website. It's www.aaa.com/travel.
Donna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. This was great. Really, it was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Donna had so much great information, and there's so many things that are going on that make your head spin. Again, you need certain things to go to the UK, and then that's going to carry into Europe. Where are these deals? It can get stressful. It's ironic because you want to go on vacation to chill and to relax, but there's some anxiety that leads up to it. But to Donna's point, give them a call. Use a travel agent for $25 a year. That's nothing for peace of mind. So wherever you decide to go, whether you're going on a family trip, you're a millennial, Gen Z, or a solo traveler, I hope you have a fantastic time, and I hope you got some great information out of this podcast. As always, head over to our YouTube channel, like and subscribe to Chick2Chick USA. That way, every time we come out with a new podcast, you will get an alert on your phone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Happy travels, and we'll be back soon with a new podcast episode.